guys aren't fooling anybody! We're better than you and we'll take you down to prove it!
Oh, then bring it on! Let's have a proper fight!
My binging balls will make a feast out of you! Electromagnetic bullet! And King Slam! Hula hoop attack!
Go Tongue Tank!
Hello everybody, Megazord X here. I'm back at it again to give you all another exciting episode review over My Hero Academia. And this time I'm going to be reviewing episode 80 called Relief for Licensed Trainees. And if you haven't already watched my episode 79 review over My Hero Academia, you can go ahead and click that card in the corner and check that video out. And then come back and check this one though, because I got to say with this episode, right off the bat, I just got to go ahead and say it though, but oh, thank goodness this episode was a whole lot better than last week's episode. Because last week's episode, gosh darn, there was really hardly anything to talk about. And you saw my reviews, it's like one of the shortest from my Hero Academia reviews though. But this one definitely had a whole lot more going with it. And it was sort of kind of the tale of two halves, where you had one focusing on the licensed trainees part, and then you had the second half that was dealing with a stalker on Deku. So at first I was kind of like off put at that. I was like, man, what in the world is this man doing though? But it was basically the comic relief part of this whole entire episode though. But there's quite a bit of stuff I have to talk about with this episode. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight up into this episode review over My Hero Academia. The first half of the episode picks up where we left off, with the licensing trainees about to face off against the rampaging quirks of these snot-nosed bratty kids. As Bakugo and company are bombarded with potshots from these ankle biters, we get an interesting bit of world building that may come up a little bit later, called the Quirk Singularity Doomsday Theory, which posits that as quirks evolve and combine with each new generation, a day may come when they become too powerful for their users to control. It's kind of a little bit terrifying concept all told. 5-year-olds can be temperamental handfuls at the best of times. Imagine what would happen to the world if their tantrums could level city blocks or cause natural disasters. It's here My Hero Academia posits that heroes are needed not just to protect the peace in times of duress, but to provide tangible, positive role models for the next generation to emulate. That's something that I actually kind of adore about My Hero Academia, because it's not just about being flashy, beating up the bad guys. No, it's also about helping those in need, as well as inspiring younger youth generations, because they ain't going to be there forever. They got to keep constantly training the younger generations below them. So that's just one thing I really like about the series as a whole, and one thing I like that they emphasize with this episode though. And it turns out kids are simpler than you think. Despite Bakugo's assertion last episode, he recognizes that these younglings aren't going to respond to them if the heroes just stomp them down and tell them to behave. Instead, the quartet combined their quirks to make something constructive, a huge ice slide and light show to excite and thrill these kids as a bonding exercise. It's at once a simple and clever choice. It changes their dynamic with the children in a way that makes them feel more like friends than authority figures, which providing a concrete example of using their superpowers to bring joy to others. Things creep into after school special territory a bit when Bakugo gives the kids' precious leader some advice about not looking down on others lest you ignore your own weaknesses. But its works subdued a bit of evidence that for all of the bluster, Bakugo has grown as a person from his failures. Plus, it's pretty funny to think his destiny as a hero may be to make sure other kids don't grow up to be, well, Bakugo himself, which is kind of ironic in that though. But that was just one thing I really liked with this episode, was you got to see a little bit of Bakugo's character development as well, because as a matter of fact, he took that time out to talk to that kid as like an equal, not like as a superior because he's just older in age and has more experience though, but he broke it down on level in terms of even out the playing field with that, which is something I really like, that kind of showcased the growth that Bakugo had as a character though. So overall, it's a cheery ending to the conflict, sprinkled with some fun gags and a bit of character growth that gets just a little bit more complicated as it's capped off. We're not privy into what's going on in Endeavor's head as he witnesses all of this, but after the training wraps up, he's there for a massively uncomfortable meetup with his son, where he insists that he'll become a hero the boy can be proud of. Shoto, for his part, has no patience for his abuser, trying to be inspiring and, basically just brushes him off. The scene ends with the narration from All Might saying that all of them are in their own way trying to move forward. For the students, it's a comfortable coda that promises that, they're going to try to grow to be better people. But for Endeavor, things are a lot murkier. Even if he's sincere about wanting to change, he has a lot more to answer for than just, failing the exam. And personally, with anime's long track record of giving abusive parents easy way outs for them to earn forgiveness, I'm skeptical about any attempts My Hero Academia might be making to redeem his like flaming, sort of kind of out of control, sort of kind of like personality. And it's all well and good if a monster's character decides to change their ways, but with all of the literal and metamorphical scars Endeavor has left in his wake, there needs to be a lot more nuance and thought put forward to make any potential character growth not feel like it, make it not feel like it's an insult. Because with Endeavor, he did a lot of things in his past with Todoroki's mom as well as Todoroki himself. So that's the thing that they gotta make sure that they approach with Endeavor. If they're gonna sort of kind of change this mindset and mentality, because we known him to be like this rough man that wanted to do his way, try to climb up to the top of the scales and try to surpass All Might. They need to do this in such a way where we don't feel like, he's just getting off the hook based upon all the stuff that Todoroki, all the stuff he did to Todoroki and his mom as well. So I just hope that they basically are able to handle his character growth as well though. But I am kind of curious to see, how Endeavor basically changes his character throughout the rest of the series though. But enough of the serious talk for now though, because it's time for some goofy shenanigans with Ioma, Class 1A's sparky-eyed weirdo who has been around since the early episodes. But outside of a brief sequence in the licensing exam, he's mostly been a Tatari comic relief vehicle. This episode, he makes a big chance though, and becomes a secondary comic relief vehicle as he weirdly stalks Deku. Now, at first, when I saw this episode from the last preview one, I was like, what the heck is this man gonna do? Because he was going around leaving him cryptic messages that spelled out in cheese slices out of all things, cheese, and generally putting our hero on the back foot. In the end, it turns out that the whole time he was Can't Stop Twinkling's unique way of trying to comfort Deku, who's been visibly rattled since returning back from his work study. Ioma proves surprisingly observant, revealing that he recognizes Deku's body isn't made to handle the quirk it possesses, a feeling he can relate to, having used his support item his whole life to keep his navel laser in check. It's a fun enough diversion, and it's always nice to see a goofy side character get more depth and get more character development. Yet it can't help feeling awkward as it's stapled on the conclusion of a different story. But that's pretty much it in terms of this review though. So for that second half of the episode, it was nice to kind of see Ioma interact with Izuku like this and sort of kind of learn a little bit more about his character, because up until this episode, I don't think anybody really knew for the most part that, with his quirk, he could not, fully control it. In the same similar manner how Izuku could not control his own quirk, he had to have that sort of kind of supportive equipment, just like how Izuku has that support equipment right now though. But at least he sort of kind of, put this character Ioma on the same similar sort of kind of level with Izuku in terms of them being able to sort of kind of relate with him. And then, at the end of the day, Izuku made a new friend, because at first he was sort of kind of off-put, probably like the majority of all of us have been watching this series now. But, after this episode, Izuku found another good, solid friend that he can go to and talk to with. But make sure you let me know down in the comment section down below, what all did you think about this episode? Did you really think that both of these two little stories within this one episode, did they manage to complement each other? Or you're kind of a little bit more like me, where I was sort of kind of a little skeptical of how these two really good sized stories, you know, separately though, but when you kind of mix them together, kind of threw the episode off just a tad little bit though. But each story individually was really good. Definitely that first half of the episode was way better than the previous episode though, and the second half though was pretty funny, you know, after you just got to see Ioma interact with Izuku and whatnot though. So let me know what you thought about this episode as a whole down in the comment section down below. But that is all that I have for y'all for this week's episode review over My Hero Academia. So if you really like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that bell to keep up to date on all things My Hero Academia. With autumn approaching, it is time for school festivals. Izuku, along with the rest of the class, are planning on putting on a special performance. Will Class 1A members manage to put the rest of UA students at ease? And will there be an outside force from some villains trying to disturb the peace? We'll have to find out about this and more in next week's episode review called School Festival. So remember y'all, until whatever video I make next, go beyond. Pas Ultra!